Thank you. Good morning and welcome to the College of Charleston. Welcome to this exciting event. I'm Suzanne Austin. I'm the Executive Vice President for Academic Affairs and Provost here at the college, and I'm truly honored to welcome all of you, and especially our guests, to this Food Security Summit here at the college. We're here to learn more about one of the most important challenges facing people around the world, and that is food insecurity. Human beings need food, water, and shelter in order to survive. So we're here to talk about something that's really incredibly important. Last year alone, estimates are that approximately 350 million people faced severe forms of hunger, and almost 50 million people around the world were on the brink of famine. And that number will only increase as the global population increases. By the year 2050, the world's population is expected to surpass 9 billion. It's approximately 8 billion now. So you can see that this is a growing problem. That's why we're here today, to provide different frames of reference from different parts of the world so that we can start to understand this enormous and very complicated problem through different lenses. And to listen to people who work every day in this area talk about the good work that's being done and the solutions that people are identifying around the world. Today's speakers and moderators represent some of the best and brightest minds tackling the issue of food security. So we're going to learn about the effects of hunger across continents, as well as here and its impact in the Low Country. I want to especially recognize two leading organizations in this space. First, the UN World Food Program, and secondly, the Low Country Food Bank. The UN World Food Program is the largest humanitarian organization in the world. It serves more than 160 million people each year in more than 120 countries. And closer to home, in our own backyard, we have the Low Country Food Bank, which distributed more than 40 million pounds of food in 2021. So each of these leaders will be formally introduced throughout the summit. But right now, I just want to thank the representatives of those organizations and everyone who is here for participating in this critical conversation. Just by your very presence indicates your interest in this and your commitment to helping tackle this huge problem. Today is about gaining knowledge and then turning that knowledge into action. So at this point, I would like to turn the lectern over to Andrew Hsu, President of the College of Charleston. President Hsu.
Thank you, Suzanne, and welcome everyone. I have the distinct honor of welcoming you to this great event. It's very good to see you this morning, Cynthia, David, John. Sorry I came a little late and didn't get to talk to you in person, but I also want to commend the students who are here for getting up so early and come here. So thank you for all being here. Not to be repetitive, but today's summit centers on a subject of critical importance. Food security is something that doesn't always command the headlines here in the US and is too often ignored. My own perspective on food security may be a little different from the people who are sitting in this room. I grew up in a time and a place where food shortages were part of everyday life for many years. And for those of students who like to fact check, you can fact check me now. And I would welcome you to help me get the numbers right. So I grew up in China, and this was when I was very small children, probably around 4 to 6. There was something called Great Leap Forward, and many of you who are close to my age. I guess very few people here are of my age, it seems like. But for those of you who are close to my age, probably have read, I know Ralph probably read in this big book about that. And that turns out to be a gross mismanagement from the government that caused 3 years of famine. Again, this was when I was 6 years old, and I do not remember clearly, but I do remember vividly. So it was probably 30 million people countrywide died of starvation. Think about it. South Carolina, how many people do we have? What's our population? 5.5 million. 30 million people. So 6 states the size of South Carolina completely wiped out by this famine. Even though my own immediate family, nobody died, but we certainly know hunger, and we also, I have most of the relatives developed something called famine edema, and for those of you students who do not know that word, edema, E-D-E-M-A, go look it up. It's a real problem caused by famine. So, the Communist Party's response to fix that problem was to sideline the then leader, Chairman Mao, right? So he was put aside, and that really set the stage for a power struggle for him to come back 3 years later through a cultural revolution that caused 10 years of havoc, and again, 10 years of food shortage and shortage for almost everything. During those 10 years, everything was rationed. And if you want to buy grain, you have to have a coupon. If you want to buy soy sauce, you have to have a coupon. If you want to buy cooking oil, you have to have a coupon. So in our world, famine is still very much real. And in fact, just this morning, I was listening to the radio, North Korea right now is going through something that is very similar to what I experienced as a 6-year-old, that they're going through famine and starvation. So this is very much a real problem in our world. Food insecurity shapes a country's politics and its stability, and as the world's population continues to rise, as our provost mentioned, we will see that fact played out in many different ways in many different countries. What happens in the developed world will be vastly different than that happens in the developing world. But both will be tested by food shortages and the rapid increase in food prices. It's simple economics, supply and demand. And in that simple formula, food security or lack thereof promotes a horrible kind of desperation, and that desperation can lead to chaos. In our intro psychology classes, students learn about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The basis of Maslow's pyramid is psychological needs, including human need for food, water, shelter. When those needs are not met, it negatively affects everything about it. Safety needs, belongingness and love needs, esteem needs, and self-actualization. So the topic today is foundational to the human experience and is so very important to our present and our future. Now, I have the honor of introducing Randy Russell, our friend, the president of the Russell Group co-founder of the Golden Phoenix Foundation and past chairman of the World Food Program USA. Randy has accomplished much in his career in agricultural policy and has served in volunteer leadership positions for numerous organizations, including Big Brothers and Big Sisters. He has dedicated his life to improving the lives of others and is truly an inspiration in this work. Before I turn the lectern over to him, I do have another item about Randy I would like to share. It's not often that I get the chance to introduce a past parent of a College of Charleston student who is also an alpaca farmer. Randy and his wife, Beth, own and operate Snowy Owl Farm in Round Hill, Virginia, about an hour outside of Washington, D.C., where they raise alpacas. That's pretty cool. Now let me turn the mic over to Mr. Randy Russell. Randy?
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you, President Hsu. That was a very kind introduction, and thank you very much for your hospitality last night, for the little reception we had. It was fantastic, beautiful evening, and thanks for the blessed weather we have here in lovely Charleston. A very special thanks to Suzanne Austin for helping put this together. And the team here at the College of Charleston. We're very excited to be here today to have this Food Security Summit. You know, as the president said, I have an advocacy firm. Dan Glickman's affiliated with it in Washington, but that's not why I'm here today. I'm here today because I've been on the board of the World Food Program USA for 20 years and two-time past chairman. But as President Hsu said, we also have a great connection to the College of Charleston. One of our daughters, Lily, who happens to be adopted from China. We have two other daughters adopted from China. So your story is very near and dear to our heart that you told about your own youth experiences in China. She graduated 2 years ago from the College of Charleston in business management and hospitality and got a master's degree in Boston and said it was too cold, and now she's moving back to Charleston. So we're excited to have her back here, and my wife and I, Beth and I, are now full-time South Carolinians and are enjoying that immensely. I also want to give a very special thanks to Amy Goebel, the executive assistant to the provost, and to Allison Alvarez, our chief of staff at the Russell Group. You know, to put on something like this, we've been planning this for a long time, and it only happens through the very hard work of the two of them. We wouldn't be here today without them, so thank you, Amy, and thank you, Allison, for your great work. I also want to say a special thanks to Dr. Tim Johnson and also to Dr. Gibbs Knotts. Both have become good friends and have been advising us throughout this process, so thanks very much for your guys' participation. Given my previous work in the United States Senate and the Senate Agriculture Committee, as well as being Chief of Staff for Secretary Block at USDA, and now, because of the work I've been doing the last 20 years at the World Food Program USA, I have become passionate about hunger and nutrition, both here and around the world. And today, you are going to hear from a group of very distinguished individuals who have spent the bulk of their careers working on hunger and nutrition, both here in the U.S. as well as globally. But beyond hearing from experts, what you're really going to hear are people who are passionate about hunger, who are passionate about trying to solve hunger, and it doesn't matter whether it's here in Charleston or whether it's in a country like Yemen. So we're very blessed today to have a great set of speakers. But before introducing kind of our lineup, let me give you a few facts and figures. As Suzanne said, last year the world's population reached 8 billion people. And of that, 350 million face severe starvation. 50 million of those in 49 countries are on the brink of starvation. That means that 4% of the world's population faces severe hunger. As you will hear, the most common cause of hunger isn't weather, and it isn't natural disasters, it's man-made conflict. And Barron will talk about that in some of his remarks. Nearly 60% of the world's hungriest people live in conflict-affected areas. And of those facing hunger, a disproportion of those are women and children. In nearly 2/3 of the countries around the world, women are the most likely to suffer from severe hunger. Over the last 12 years, 90% of the world's population growth will occur in Asia and Africa, where per capita income is the lowest. On the global front, always remember this, food insecurity is a national security issue. Why? Because when food insecurity rises, governments become threatened, and this leads to civil unrest and creates a foothold for terrorist-based organizations to gain a foothold. But you know, hunger isn't just a global issue. Here in the U.S., 10% of the U.S. population is food insecure. And right here in South Carolina, in the Palmetto State, 1 in 10 people face hunger. And right here in the Low Country, food insecurity is 11%, as you will hear from Nick, meaning that 161,000 people right here in this area, including 46,000 children, are food insecure. And for these reasons, this is exactly why the College of Charleston is having the Food Security Summit today. So we're going to begin today with my dear friend, Barron Seeger, who's president and CEO of the World Food Program USA. Barron has done an absolutely stellar job leading our organization, raising awareness about global hunger, and helping raise public and private funds to fight global hunger. He's truly been an inspirational leader for our organization. And Barron will be joined by Max Kavaloff, International Studies instructor, and Bennett, director of the Moreau's Global Leadership Institute. We will then hear from what I know is going to be an extremely entertaining and informative session, and a panel that will be moderated by Dr. Hollis France, Associate Professor and Chair of the Political Science Department. It includes my longtime friend and dear partner, and frankly a mentor of mine for so many years, the Honorable Dan Glickman, former Secretary of Agriculture, former longtime congressman from the great state of Kansas. He's very proud that Kansas State won last night. And he will be joined by also a dear friend, Rebecca Middleton, who's our Chief Advocacy Officer at the World Food Program USA. And Rebecca has done a terrific job gaining record amount of public funding, lobbying Congress. And you'll hear more about that in a few minutes. Then following a short break, we're going to turn here to the Low Country, and we're going to learn a little bit more about hunger right here in our backyard. And we're very pleased to have a great panel, including Nick Osborne, who's president and CEO of the Low Country Food Bank. You know, over the Christmas holidays, I had the great pleasure of going and meeting with Nick, and he gave me a tour of the facility. And it is a first-class operation on the front lines of fighting hunger in several counties here in the Low Country, and I know you'll enjoy listening to Nick. And we're also very pleased to have Shannon Maynard, who is with the Congressional Hunger Center. And Shannon is going to tell you about the great work they do with fellowships. I think now there's something like 800 alumni that have graduated from their fellowship program. And I know you will find her presentation to be very informative. And that panel will be moderated by Lauren Ravelico, Associate Professor of French and also of Women and Gender Studies here at the College of Charleston. And finally, last but not least, My good friend Gresham Barrett, former congressman from South Carolina, 4-term, also has served as chief of staff for the World Food Program USA and senior policy advisor. And as you know, the current executive director is David Beasley. And David was 2-term governor here in South Carolina and has done an absolutely remarkable job as leader of the World Food Program. I know you're going to find Gresham's talk to both be inspiring, but also talking about some of the challenges we face here as well as around the world. So with that, let's get started with the program, and I'd like to call your attention to the screen where we're going to show a short video about the great work that the men and women on the front lines of hunger around the world at the World Food Program face each and every day. Thanks for being here, and I hope you enjoyed today's session.
We turn to the global food crisis.
28 million people went hungry one way or another on a daily basis last
The
year.
number of people on the brink of starvation has doubled to 270 million worldwide during
The program says nearly half the country worries about where they'll find their next meal.
Director of the World Food Program.
World Food Program.
the World Food Program.
The world's largest humanitarian organization, the UN World Food Program.
Feeding the world's hungry is what the World Food Program has been doing for more than 50 years.
The 2020 Nobel Peace Prize has been awarded to the UN World Food Program